Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about dating and kind of how I guess started on my journey of dating and how I became comfortable with dating and stuff like that, because I've gotten comments of how I'm able to be so comfortable and kind of how I started putting myself out there and all of that stuff. And by no means am I an expert on relationships or dating or anything like that, but throughout the years, I would say specifically a lot of things started like my freshman year of college. I really started to make an effort in understanding both female and male psychology and how people's minds work when it comes to relationships and dating. So that's kind of where I'm gonna start, because beforehand I didn't really have too much experience. And I guess starting off in my freshman year of college, or university if you're not from the US, I really wanted to start being comfortable with the opposite sex. Like obviously I grew up with guys being around because I went to public school growing up. So I saw many guys and I was friends with a lot of guys, or like a lot for me, because I didn't really talk to people, but I was very friendly and I could talk to guys just fine and everything. But I never really dated, and I never really had too many romantic connections in high school. I had like guys that maybe, like, I can think of 2 instances that I kind of was texting back and forth with guys that actually didn't go to my school, but I met through church. So I guess that was kind of like I liked one of the guys, but anyways, I'm not gonna get into that. But as far as dating in high school, I dated one guy in high school, my senior year of high school, and we dated, I think, around a month, and it just didn't work out. But so that's why I'm gonna start with my freshman year of college. So going into my freshman year of college, like I said, I really tried to make an effort in trying to understand people better as a whole when it comes to relationships. So a lot of people watch different things on YouTube or research different things, but for me, one of the biggest interests for me is actually romance and dating, and that side of, I guess, human nature. So I did a lot of research on dating and how to attract people, and I watched a lot of videos from experts on dating, and also people that would just, whoa, sorry, you're sitting on my steering wheel and I kind of moved it. And I watched a lot of videos on even people that aren't necessarily experts but have a lot of really good advice about dating. And I think I use this word a lot, maybe I shouldn't use that as much, but this may be controversial, but I do believe there is a difference in psychology between male and females. And I'm not saying that everybody fits that mold, and I'm not trying to box someone into that mold, but I do think there is. And I also think it's different in a heterosexual relationship and whatever other types of relationships you might find yourself in. For me, as a heterosexual female, I focused more on heterosexual males and heterosexual females as my where I got, like, I guess, advice from. I'm not saying I got advice from people that were not necessarily heterosexual, but I got advice from people that were talking about those kind of relationships because they apply to me. Whereas I'm not sure for like people, maybe even if you're bi or gay or a lesbian, I don't know what that would look like for you if you do fall into that category. But like I said, for me, that's who I focused on, or what the subjects that I focused on were more of a heterosexual relationship. That being said, I got a lot of good insight, and I personally believe that I understand the male psychology pretty well. And talking to guy friends or just guys in general and explaining kind of how I really kind of witnessed or learned about their psychology, a lot of people, guys, said that it was true. So I don't know if it is or not, but I do feel like I have a pretty good insight, and again, I might be completely wrong. So I have a pretty good grasp of what people are attracted to, both male and females, and I realize that, and this is very superficial, but people do judge you by the way you look. And I'm not saying that you have to be the most attractive person in the world. I'm obviously not. But it doesn't hurt, or at least it shouldn't hurt, to try to look the best that you can as an individual, and that's gonna look good. That's gonna look different for everyone. And you have to realize your strengths, and you have to also realize your weaknesses. So a huge interest for me, starting at a very young age, besides like psychology and typology, was I was very interested in personal development, and that still remains one of my biggest interests. And I do know a lot about personal development, and again, I'm not an expert, so I don't want to tell people what to do. But I think learning certain things from personal development also helps in relating to other people. So for example, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's a very phenomenal book. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And again, you have to look at things, or at least try to look at things objectively. Not everything's going to necessarily apply to you or what you're trying to accomplish, but there's so many things that you can get even from those kind of, and those are really well-known books. I have so many others that I've read or that I want to read, but those are very helpful books in kind of getting a kind of rudimentary, or I wouldn't even say a lot of the concepts are not rudimentary, but kind of getting a basis of personal development. That being said, you obviously don't have to do that in order to start dating, but that's kind of where my mind is at. Also, something that also helped me, and obviously this is an ongoing journey for everybody, but is really beginning to love myself and truly like caring for myself. So I would say inwardly, and it doesn't always translate externally, and I want to change that, but inwardly I have a very high self-esteem, and just because someone thinks a certain thing about me doesn't make it true, and it doesn't make me upset, especially people that are not in my inner circle, my friends and my family, or people that I work closely with. And I'm not saying that I never, like, negative things never affect me. That's obviously not true. But I have tried, and it's an ongoing process, but I have developed myself inwardly to be able to withstand certain things. Because another thing about dating and just in life in general, I have certain morals or standards for certain things, and certain things that I won't do. No matter what someone says, I'm not going to cave. And that becomes a lot easier to be able to uphold when you have a good grasp of your self-esteem. And again, don't confuse that for egotism or narcissism, because there's there's just people out there that are those ways, and that doesn't mean they have a high self-esteem. So another thing that I would say with dating, kind of going back into appearances and how you relate with other people and personal development and even your self-esteem, is just realizing, and I'm again speaking from a heterosexual experience or viewpoint, and I think this really can apply to anybody, whatever they're looking for. But whoever you're attracted to, this can be an individual or it could be a group of individuals, like for example guys for me. You have to be able to see those people as people. I know a lot of women, specifically in college, I noticed this, and guys do the same thing, but I noticed that a lot of girls will, or whatever you want to say, will kind of act like guys that they're interested in are like a different species. And it's the same thing for guys. I've definitely seen that, and I've seen guys treat me differently because they were interested in me. And whatever pedestal you have put those people on, and this goes for like celebrities as well, which I guess that's not super relevant, but anybody, any human being out there, regardless of whatever background they have, they are a human being. So if you treat someone like they're above or lesser than a human being, it's, in my opinion, not the best way to go about life. And I guess it also depends on what you're trying to attract into your life or who you're trying to be with. For me, I'm looking for someone that is going to be my partner in life. So someone that I regard as an equal. And this isn't me thinking that some people are better than other people. I don't think that. But I want to be with someone, a guy that treats me like he would treat himself. So this goes into self-esteem, and I definitely can't say that I have always chosen the best guys. I'm obviously single, so, or best guys for me. The guys that I've dated aren't necessarily bad, I'm not saying that, but they were not, nobody that I've dated thus far has been the best for me. And a lot of that has to do with myself and also sometimes them. Particularly when I'm talking about, maybe it's a case of them, they may have had certain insecurities or their self-esteem was a lot lower than what I personally view as healthy. And I'm not saying that I need to be with someone that's perfect, and I'm not saying that other people need to be with someone that's perfect, because there's nobody that's perfect or someone that has a perfect self-esteem. But I think everything that kind of ties that together, if you don't love yourself first, and this is true love, not, again, not egotism, not narcissism. If you don't truly love yourself internally, you will never truly love another person. And again, this might be controversial for certain people to hear, or maybe people don't agree with that, and that's fine. But I truly believe that people need to love themselves before they're able to love another. And you can always want to improve yourself or change yourself. I particularly, like I said, have a very high inward self-esteem. And outward, I think I have a pretty high self-esteem. And I think my self-worth is pretty high for myself. But again, that doesn't always translate, and maybe that's why I've had struggles with relationships, and maybe that applies to you as well. I know that this was kind of a long introduction to dating and stuff like that, but I think all of these things are important, and you obviously don't have to do these things, but those things kind of prepared me in order to feel comfortable dating. And I'm not saying that all of those things were prepared when I first started dating, but because they definitely were not. I think those would be helpful, and if I could have done things again, I would have told anybody or myself those pieces of advice. So I guess going into actually dating people, so like I said, I kind of started dating in college, and going back to treating someone like a human being and being there for them, I have witnessed for myself that when you become like friendly with someone or like friends with someone in the sense that you treat them like a person instead of an object or someone that's below or over you, they are able to relate to you a lot better, at least from my experience. And you build more rapport with the people that you're interested in. So I've had many instances where guy friends have ended up being interested in me, and I think a lot of that has to do with the way I treated them, and I was able to build really deep relationships with them. And for me, I'm not saying all of the guys, but a vast majority of them, I personally I wasn't interested in them necessarily, but I did build that rapport with them. So that's something to think about if you're not trying to be in the friend zone, is just because someone's building rapport or treating you like that doesn't mean they're interested in you. I think the best way to kind of break that wall, and again, you don't have to necessarily be friends with someone first, is just to be, there's a certain period of time that you should be like friendly with someone and kind of get to know them. And if you're interested in them, ask them out. And I know that sounds really daunting, but it's kind of a numbers game when it comes to dating. And it's also, you have to get over rejection. You have to realize that you have to tell yourself, whether you believe it or not right now, but you have to tell yourself that, you know, I have a lot of worth, I have a lot to offer. And this is said to yourself, not to the other person. And one day someone will want to be with me, and they are lucky to be with me. And it's not, again, out of a place of narcissism or egotism. You just want to truly say that to yourself until you truly believe it, and you're working on yourself as well. Yeah, and I don't know. Dating is hard, and it's hard to put yourself out there. I personally right now am using Bumble, the dating app Bumble and Hinge. But I would say that my more successful dating experiences have been meeting people in person, specifically in college, because I was around a ton of people. But if you're not really around a ton of people and you don't really want to do dating apps or date online or whatever, I would suggest going to things that you're interested in, events, or use meetup.com as a way of connecting with people that are like-minded. And going back to this point, you need to be honest with yourself about the way you look, the way you treat other people, and how you are perceived to other people. And again, I'm not perfect about that. I'm not saying that I am. But you want to try your best, because like I was saying about building yourself up and dealing with rejection, I mean, there are certain people, and you see this on dating apps, there's certain people that I see, which first of all, guys on dating apps, for the most part, are not, a large plurality of guys do not post very good pictures of themselves, and that's a good way to be swiped left. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to be the most attractive, but a lot of the photos look like they're from a potato, and they're just not cute, or they have other people in their photo. So I think that could be a whole separate video about advice I would give guys on dating apps. So if you guys are interested, I can do that. But that being said, I'll save that for another time. But you have to be very honest about your, like I said, your appearance, the way you come off to someone, and the way you treat other people. Because let's say, I hate using these terms, but I'm going to. If you're looking at people as at a 10-point scale, which some people do, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but let's say right now, objectively speaking, people would consider you a 4 or a 5 or a 6, whatever you want to say. And then you're trying to get with someone that is a 9 or a 10. You have to realize that about yourself. And if you don't have things that maybe that person would want, they're probably not going to be attracted to you. And I personally don't really, well, I mean, everybody is superficial in their own way, and you have certain things that you may say, oh, I'll go for anybody, but that's just not true. I mean, there's certain people that I'll just, like, even if they had a good quality picture, I'd probably swipe left about. Or if I saw them, I probably wouldn't be interested in them. And that isn't anything against them, but if you're trying to attract a certain type of person, you need to be able to think objectively of what maybe they're looking for, and not change yourself for them, but you should try to improve yourself as much as you can. Like, for example, if you're trying to be with someone that's really into fitness and you're overweight and you don't eat healthy, that they may be attracted to you in the short term, but lifestyle wise, in the long term, you're gonna butt heads at some point. So I know that kind of stuff is a little superficial, and I'll that's all I'm gonna say for this video. If you guys are interested in finding out more, I do feel like I have pretty good advice, and I have helped a lot of my friends with dating. Even people that most people would find objectively attractive have struggled with dating. And so if you have any questions, or if you have anything that you want to say about this video, and I know that I don't know how this is going to be received, because I think there are some things that may offend someone. I just think that this needs to be put out there, and I hope that it's helpful, and I will clarify anything that I need to clarify. But I hope you guys are having a great day, and thank you so much. And if you like my videos, please consider subscribing and like this video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.